Week 12 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few players I will look to stash this week. The first player, Devon Vele of the Denver Broncos. So these players, you want to get them on your roster. 4 teams in your league, go out there and add them, and they break out, or they could even help your team now. So Vele available 97% of fantasy leagues. In the last few weeks, he's definitely been more involved in this offense. Is the young rookie here is Vele. So week 8 versus Carolina, 3 catches, 28 yards. Week 9 at the Ravens, 2 catches, 11 yards. 10 at the Chiefs, 4 catches, 39 yards, a touchdown. And week 11 versus the Falcons, 4 catches, 66 yards. Big target, 6'7", 6'8", is Devon Vele. And Bo Nix, he's looking for that number 2 option in the passing game behind Courtland Sutton, because no one else has really stepped up consistent. Troy Franklin hasn't. Little Jordan Humphrey hasn't, even though he found the end zone last week, and Marvin Mims have it. So Devon Vele, he's a decent route runner. His route participation's been going up over the last few weeks, and this week it's a good matchup at the Vegas Raiders. If he goes out there and there's a big game, it wouldn't be surprising to me. Right now, if I'm a fantasy owner and I got an open roster spot and need a receiver, I think Vele's a good stash this week. The next player to stash, Demario Douglas of the New England Patriots. I've mentioned Douglas a little bit over the last few weeks, and right now he's available in 71% of fantasy leagues. So Douglas, he's gone out there and he's played pretty decent the last 3 weeks, 9 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues. Week 9 at Tennessee, 7 catches, 35 yards. Week 10 at the Bears, 4 catches, 50 yards. And week 11 versus the Rams, 5 catches, 59 yards. So the targets are there. He's the number 1 A-B option between him and Hunter Henry in the passing game for this New England Patriot team. And this Patriot team, we know they're not a good team at 3-8 on the season, and they're going to be trailing and chasing points all season long. So Demario Douglas, he's got speed, he's got yard after catch ability, and the targets have been there. So if you need a wide receiver to stash, he's out there in 71% of fantasy leagues. Stash Cam Akers of the Minnesota Vikings. The last few weeks, his numbers have gone up and the touches have gone up for Cam Akers. I know Aaron Jones, he's not hurt or anything like that, but they're definitely cutting back on his workload, I believe. Keep him refreshed for the end of the season and the playoffs, where this Minnesota Viking team, as of now, are in good position to win a wild card spot. In the last 3 games for Akers, week 9 versus the Colts, 6 carries, 46 yards, 2 catches, 7 yards. Week 10 at Jacksonville, 13 carries, 38 yards, a catch, 9 yards. In week 11 at Tennessee, 10 carries, 25 yards, 2 catches, 11 yards, a touchdown. So now Cam Akers, he's gone out there, he's getting 10, 12 touches per week. And right now, if Aaron Jones did go down, he could step right in and be a pretty good back, I believe, for fantasy owners. So if you need a backup running back or speculative ad, just in case something happens to Jones, I think Akers could be decent for fantasy owners, because if he goes out there this week at Chicago and gets that 10, 12 touches and puts up numbers, he's going to be a hot pickup on the wire. So right now would be a time for owners to go out there and beat other teams in the league to get him the next player. Roschon Johnson of the Chicago Bears. So he's the goal line back as Johnson for the Chicago Bear team. He can catch the football a little bit out of the backfield, but obviously DeAndre Swift's the number 1 running back over there in Chicago. But like I said, Roschon Johnson, he's still getting a decent workload at times, anywhere from that 8 to 10 touch range most weeks. I know the last couple weeks before last, he didn't do much, but this Bear team, when they're in the goal line, Roschon Johnson are getting those touches most times than not. Week 9 at Arizona, 3 carries, 13 yards, 2 catches, 8 yards. Week 10 versus the Pats, a carry, -4 yards, a catch, 5 yards. And week 11 versus Green Bay, he did get the good workload. 10 carries, 33 yards, a touchdown, a catch, 8 yards. So this week, a matchup versus Minnesota, we'll see how the game script goes, because usually when that game script's not in their favor, we haven't seen the good numbers. But if it's a tight contested game where they're leading, that's where we see more Roschon Johnson, and obviously running the football with a lead. So right now, Johnson out there in 82% of fantasy leagues, and he's a stash this week. The next stash, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, New Orleans Saints. Valdes-Scantling, he's getting an opportunity with New Orleans, where this season, in the early going, he didn't get one with the Buffalo Bills. They cut him loose. In the last 2 weeks for New Orleans, he's gone out there and had big games. I know he's on bye this week, so right now, easily you could go out there and get him off the waiver wire. Available in 75% of fantasy leagues. Week 10 versus Atlanta, 3 catches, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. And week 11 versus the Browns, 2 catches, 87 yards, a touchdown on a 71-yard touchdown. So he's not getting a lot of targets, but he's a big deep ball threat. And we know Derek Carr likes airing that football out. We saw Rashid Shaheed before he went out for the season with the knee injury. And now Valdes-Scantling, they needed someone in there with, especially Shaheed out for the year and Chris Olave on IR a few more weeks as well. So Valdes-Scantling's getting opportunities. He's made big plays. And right now, he's a stash option. Player Xavier Legette of the Carolina Panthers. Leggett, number 1 receiver on this team. Jalen Coker, number 2. I know Adam Thielen's returning to the lineup, but Leggett, he was a first-round pick in the NFL draft for this Carolina Panther team. I know this week's a tough matchup, but regardless, anytime you can get a number 1 wide receiver on a team, even if it's not a good team, it's someone to put on your roster and stash, and right now available after their bye week in 73% of fantasy leagues. I would get this week on the stash week. I think we'll get to decent stash. The last few games for him: week 8 at Denver, 4 catches, 34 yards, a touchdown. Week 9 versus Saints, 4 catches, 33 yards, a touchdown, a carry, 6 yards. And week 10 versus the Giants, 3 catches, 40 yards in that one. So Xavier Leggett, he's going out there, he's running the routes. Him and Bryce Young have built a decent rapport over the last couple weeks. And then, like I said, right now you should go out there and get him, because number 1 wide receivers this time of the year are tough for owners to go out there on the waiver wire and find, even if they're on a bad team. And the final player I look to stash is Ricky Pearsall of the San Francisco 49ers. He was a first-round pick in the NFL draft this season. We know he was out majority of the year after he was shot earlier in the preseason as Pearsall, and now he's returned the last few weeks for this 49er team, and it's been a mixed bag of results. Week 7 versus the Chiefs, 3 catches, 21 yards. Week 8 versus the Cowboys, a carry, 39 yards, 4 catches, 38 yards. Week 10, Tampa Bay, a nice game, 4 catches, 73 yards, a touchdown. And then last week versus the Seahawks in Week 11, 2 targets and the goose egg in that one. So Week 12, it's a matchup at the Packers. And I think this offense, they're going to try to spread the Packers out and move that football around, where last week they were playing with a lead a majority of the game. And obviously Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings were the top 2 targets in the passing game. But Ricky Pearsall, he's a good talent. We've seen flashes already from him. And right now, where he got dropped in 8% of fantasy leagues, and he's out there in 62% of leagues, he's definitely a wide receiver to go out there and stash. I know he's coming off a goose egg, but if he goes out there this week and has a big game, he's going to be a big waiver wire pickup once again. So right now, after a down week, it's a perfect time to stash him. So that's a few players I look to stash for Week 12 of the fantasy football season.